Salutations, Legion. Doom, welcome to podcast, the storm where social awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all around nerds convene, talk, and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy occultist, aka the authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, everyone. I just got done having a shopping spree, which is always a good day.
That is
Also,
the gayest thing I've
shout,
ever heard you say.
shout out to local to me business, the Haberdashery. The owner gave me like a 45% discount on a really rather nice shirt. So if you ever happen to be in the Kingston, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pittston area, and you want some really nice menswear, that is the place you should go to. The Haberdashery in Kingston. Granted, I don't know how well that endorsement is going to age, considering the kinds of things we talk about here and how often we frequently sort of side against the team broadly indicated as social justice, even though we are minorities that social justice tries to use as a shield. So,
Alright, give me 1 second, I just gotta pull some. So simply because I've had a very long day, we are
and
just
for
kind
some reason, all the trailers came out this week, all of them.
Yeah, actually, that's also kind of odd, given it's March.
Yeah, and as far as I was aware, no major movie is like. Well, no, I guess Super Mario Galaxy is coming out next week, so
Plus,
maybe everybody was trying to get out ahead of Mario.
Plus last week, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we're playing it safe and going on easy mode and doing a trailer week again this week, folks.
Yeah, I'm just.
Because trailers are easier to plow through than articles, and I think we'll have more on the positive side of things to say for at least some of these, so it's also less emotionally taxing. It's certainly not an academic who is so far up his own ass he might as well form a black hole of his own sphincter, but you know, que sera. I apologize for the mental image that probably gave Brainstormer.
What? Sorry, I'm tired, so my brain's kind of clocking in and out every now and then.
Your brain may have done you a solid.
Okay, I don't want to know what you're talking about.
If you wish to know, watch
No.
the playback when this rolls over into not being live anymore, or have DT tell you when he comes in, whenever that is.
But yeah, we're just kind of gonna have an easy podcast this night. So.
Mm-hmm. We are, however, starting with. Actually, we're kind of starting with the positive thing this week.
Yeah, because we don't really have a visual something to really keep in it. I think it's going to be kind of a quick one. So.
Mm-hmm.
So Project Hail Mary, I had seen it Tuesday. Dawn recently saw it.
Some point during the week, I don't remember which day.
So just starting with general thoughts before we get spoilers.
Short version. Surprising absolutely no one. The source material from the same guy who gave us The Martian, from the same screenwriter as The Martian, and from the duo the duo of directors that gave us the good but not great Spider-Verse movies and the 21 and 22 Jump Street movies, and probably the most iconic of all, the Lego movie, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who I swear sweat wholesomeness out of every pore. Well, this combination of people, they predictably aced the assignment. I like the closest thing I can compare this to is, you know how everyone and their mother knew that Guillermo del Toro doing a version of Frankenstein was going to be the perfect match of creatives to source material? Well, this is yet another case of the perfect match of creatives to source material. We always said it looked good on the trailers, and it lived up to every aspect of the hype we were hyping it up for. Again, given the people involved and how well they seem to have worked together, that's probably unsurprising to anyone who knows enough about the back end creative part of this. But holy hell, is this movie good? I would be very surprised if this one doesn't end up being the number one on my best of the year list. Then again, I said that about Sinners, and then Del Toro's Frankenstein bumped it to number 2. So I'd be happy to be wrong, but I suspect this will at least be in the top 5 of my best of the year list when 2027 rolls around.
Yeah, no, this is really good. It's one of those very few movies that actually kept me engaged basically throughout. Like,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I literally held off going to the bathroom for the entirety of the whole movie.
Another thing this movie reminded me of, I saw a lot of people saying Pixar-esque. I disagree slightly, though. I think this movie is more like a live-action Laika movie. For those that don't know much about the back end of creative Hollywood shite, Laika is the studio that gave us Coraline, Paranorman, The Box Trolls, and Kubo and the Two Strings, and will soon be giving us fuck is the thing's name? God damn it. What the hell is the next Laika thing? We've done the trailer reaction to it.
Wildwood.
There we go. Which honestly, realistically, speaking of the thing I said earlier about this probably being the number 1 on my best of the year list, Wildwood is the only thing I can realistically see having a chance at knocking this out of the top spot. Because I've never lost money betting on Laika. I don't think I'm about to. So, being that as it may, if this is a live action animated movie, which I get the vibe that a lot of people are saying this is as if it were a live action cartoon. The two things that this reminds me the most of are Laika movies, or no, 3 things that this reminds me the most of: Laika movies, Aardman animation movies, and the couple of Wes Anderson animated movies I've seen, like Isle of Dogs. That's kind of where this lives and where this fits. It also feels a lot like an 80s family movie. Something like Flight of the Navigator. This feels very adjacent to that kind of vibe.
Yeah, yeah, I guess we just move on to spoilers then. So spoiler warning for those who give a shit about that, even though if you're here, why the fuck would you care?
Yeah. But if you are of the spoiler squeamish folks, skip to whenever you no longer see the icon that is currently on screen for your safety. Rocky is the most wholesome character in the Node universe. Literally.
I also think it's like honestly, it's one of the only stories I've seen where force contact is handled really well.
Yeah. There, and by the way, Disney, take notes. This is how you do an adorable sidekick. Same thing for you, DreamWorks. Stop minioning every 5 minutes and take notes at what they did with Rocky in this picture here.
I will say it's a surprisingly mature movie. And to define and to explain myself, while I do think yes, it is comedic, which I think is in par with the personality and writing of Andy Weir, given my knowledge of The Martian.
That certainly was the vibe we got from Matt Damon's botanist character, who his character's name I don't remember, but I remember he was played by Matt Damon and he was a botanist.
Yeah. It handles the topics and the personal growth and it okay, I guess the best way I could say it is every emotional moment, every is earned. There is a pathos there. It does not feel forced. It does not feel unnatural. It feels, well, I feel it, like.
Okay, question, because I know this is Brainstormer's metric for the goodness of any given movie. Tears, did you have them?
Surprisingly, no, but my heart rate was in the third act. It very much was out of control.
I think one of the reasons that it might not have resulted in tears is because unlike especially the most recent Pixar movies, it doesn't feel the need to emotionally blackmail and manipulate its audience. That's why I say that's one of the reasons. The other one is tonal, but one of the reasons I say this is more like a live action like a movie than it is a live action Pixar movie is because Pixar are emotionally manipulative little shits. And they have been for at least the mid 2010s. I can't say so much from before that because I genuinely think that the first decade or so of Pixar movies didn't have to resort to emotional blackmail and emotional manipulation to make their audience care. And this movie doesn't either. I kept waiting for the second act. This is where they have a miscommunication that makes them break up thing happened, which is one of my least favorite tropes in all of storytelling. I hate the arbitrarily manufactured second act conflict that results in an argument that makes two characters blow up at each other thing. Hate that so much. And I was so glad to see it didn't happen here. And so what they do, which don't get me wrong, this movie will go dark and it will make you care in an organic way, not in the melodrama, emotional, and manipulative bullshit way that Pixar does for the last decade or so. But none of it feels obligatory, and none of it feels contractual, and none of it feels like the story is forcing it in for an arbitrary conflict. Everything that happens never goes so dark that it gets to the point of, grimdark, or gets to the point of emotionally manipulated bullshit. But when it organically gets to the point where it makes you feel something, you feel it without necessarily needing to be bent over backwards and spanked with an emotional paddle like the way Pixar does things.
But yeah, it's just like, okay, so yeah, again, we're in spoiler territory, so it doesn't really matter. Um, in the third act, when Grace is unconscious and I believe is severely injured, Rocky, who construct, well, that's also the thing. It's like both their atmospheres are toxic to each other.
Mm.
I can't remember what the specific difference was, but
It's escaping me too when I feel really bad because this is, after all, a movie based on Andy Weir's source material, and if the physics monologuing of The Martian didn't give it away, Andy Weir does his homework and does it well. And I'm saying this as someone, for as much as I am a practicing occultist now, and I have been for almost 20 years, my first intellectual love, for anyone that doesn't know me, was theoretical physics. One of the first books I ever willingly read cover to cover on my own volition was Stephen Hawking's Universe in a Nutshell, which I borrowed from my aunt's boyfriend at the time, who was a engineering major and a physics minor, or it may have been the other way around. But yeah. So as someone who does, for all my mystical academia is also a thing, have a background, at least a layman one, in theoretical physics, I really enjoyed that aspect of The Martian. It's one of the reasons why The Martian is probably my favorite plausible, optimistic near future, which is very hard to do. The only scientifically minded person who splits the difference between optimism and technical proficiency and actually explaining how the fuck the physics works, as Andy Weir does, is probably Isaac Asimov, who wrote both fiction and nonfiction books and made it so that most of his ideas had some basis in physics as they were understood at the time. But yeah, this is an Andy Weir source material story, and so they do their homework. Minor itty bitty nitpick, and this is a nitpick even by my exceedingly nitpicky standards. I do wish they had gone a little bit more into detail with some of the stuff, particularly when Ryan Gosling's character was learning to translate Rocky. I wish they had gone into more of the term is exolinguistics, or exoanthropology. This was covered also very well. It was the main premise in the movie Arrival, if anyone remembers Arrival. I do think this movie is better than Arrival, but I wish the movie had spent a little bit more time with Ryan Gosling's character figuring out how to translate Rocky. Also, minor nitpick, they spend time with Ryan Gosling's character learning how to translate Rocky. For whatever reason, Rocky just seems to understand English. I don't know. I don't recall it being established that his species were telepathic or nothing, but it kind of feels that way. Which yeah, if you those are the only two major criticisms I have for the thing, though. Honestly, I wish they had spent a little bit more time on the particulars, the way The Martian did with Matt Damon's botany explanations and shit there. And I wish they had explained how in the fuck Rocky comes to understand Ryan Gosling's character, because we see at least a little bit of how Ryan Gosling got from A to B on understanding Rocky. I guess we can assume that a similar process happened in reverse as well, but it very much seems like Rocky already has some kind of universal translator and or telepathy, which wouldn't have been a thing I would mind if that was a thing. It's just I don't recall it being established that that was a thing. So those are my only two actual criticisms for the thing. Otherwise, it's, again, it very much feels like the better side of 80s movies like Flight of the Navigator, or one that not many people remember very much, but Disney's The Black Hole. It very much has that kind of wholesome, adventurous sci-fi to it. In a kind of millennial or Gen Z-ish territory, the closest analogy I think would be Skyrunners, if anyone remembers that one. It was a movie made specifically for Disney XD.
I always thought that was a series.
Nope, movie. Never followed up on with a series, unfortunately. Aaron Stone was a series, and one of the main actors for Aaron Stone was in Skyrunners, but Skyrunners was just a movie. But yeah, there is a little bit of that with the relationship between Ryan Gosling's character and Rocky, as there is between the main kids in Skyrunners and the ship, which is Sapient, if anyone doesn't remember from Skyrunners.
But yeah, I thought Rocky might have died. I was just like, I kept thinking something bad was gonna happen. Something there had to be something.
I was worried Ryan Gosling's character was gonna die. Spoiler alert. And this is a definitive spoiler, as in it gives the end of the movie away. Nobody dies. There is a bittersweet and three-dimensional, i.e., not saccharine or overly optimistic, but there is a happy-ish ending where both characters survive, and Rocky essentially makes a zoo enclosure for Ryan Gosling's character on his home world. And for anyone who thinks there might be a sinister, dark edge to this, no. They respect him fine. It's just that like they understand that he's at least as smart as they are and stuff. And in fact, he still maintains his position as a teacher from within his enclosure. It's just that our atmospheres are mutually fucking toxic to each other, so this is a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Also, the technology for Rocky's people is incredible. Like how it's designed, how it works. It's just
yeah, it's very realistically, and I know this is again me sucking off Andy Weir a bit, but Andy Weir, I need to read more of his books, must be, because he scratches the itches that pedantic, almost Neil deGrasse Tyson-y part of my brain works. It scratches those itches while also being remarkably optimistic, not just about science or technology, but about the human condition overall, which I think is the thing I appreciate most about this and The Martian, because so much of realistic sci-fi in today's day and age is dystopian, because to borrow a phrase from Pirates of the Caribbean, you better stop believing in dystopias, Miss Turner. You're in one. But being that as it may, Andy Weir seems to have picked up the baton or the torch from Isaac Asimov, in that he thinks there are plausible futures where we will have an optimistic, happy-ish ending while still being recognizably human. The only other movie that came as close to The Martian as being a positive future for humanity, in my opinion, before this obviously goes on the same shelf as The Martian. It's from the same guy and a lot of the same creative team. Who knew? And where it wasn't from the same creative team, um, it was Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who again sweat wholesomeness from every pore, it seems. But being that as it may, the only other movie that comes as close to The Martian and Project Hail Mary in terms of optimistic, plausible near future for humanity is Her. And yes, I consider Her to be an optimistic movie. Don't at me. A lot of people, a lot of the anti-AI set find Her to be horrifying or at least extremely sad or tragic. And I find the ending of Her tragic. I find the fact that Samantha and the other OSs leave at the end to be tragic. But I don't find the movie Her to be tragic. I think it is an optimistic future. It's just an optimistic future that also talks about some of the sort of downsides to being human some of the time.
So I just looked up Andy Weird's books. Some
His
good ones.
bibliography.
Two
Yeah.
I can see. Thank you, bibliography. Two I can see being made into movies, and well, one I honestly think would need to be might need to be animated, maybe.
Like I say, I've never read any of his books. I probably should one of these days, given how much I liked them. I have now liked two movies that was based on his source material. I probably won't in the near future because it's just not within the types of stuff I normally read. But it's certainly on the list. And if I ever stumble upon either Project Hail Mary or The Martian or any of his other books, once I've looked up the rest of his bibliography, I will pick them up if they're not too expensive.
All right, let me get the next thing ready.
Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, this concludes the wholesome and positive portion of the live stream for the most part. In short, your best gauge as to whether you will like Project Hail Mary is whether you liked The Martian or whether you liked any of the Laika Studios movies. If the answer is yes to both of those, and especially if you also liked some of Wes Anderson's animated offerings like Fantastic Mr. Fox or I Love Dogs, you will probably deeply enjoy this movie. And even people who didn't like any of those will probably think this is, again, the only thing that I could see dethroning this from the number one spot is Laika's next offering. Anyway, on to the insufferably bullshit.
Moving on to Dalton's favorite movie from his favorite director.
Dune Part 3 from Discount Christopher Nolan.
Vanilla.
Spice. Spice must flow.
If we have a girl, what will we name her?
Her name should be Ganima.
Okay, at this point in the Dune timeline, my knowledge and memory get a bit shaky because I didn't read this far into the Dune books. Or if I did, it was a while ago and I don't remember much beyond the first Dune book. The aesthetic is still asinine, and I hate the boredom as an aesthetic bullshit that Denis Villeneuve copied from Christopher Nolan, who I also hate. But yeah, all the aesthetic problems, or at least the majority. Okay, I will say it looks like half a tone brighter than I remember the two previous ones being, so it is slightly better than the other two, but it's still an unnecessarily grounded, unnecessarily boring, and unnecessarily utterly colorless story about the religious and philosophical implications of magical reality bending space LSD. God damn it, I hate this so much. It's again, this is just
Don.
I realize I realize on Monday morning quarterbacking at this point because obviously they fucked up with Dune Part 1 and 2, so changing the aesthetic now would be kind of a dick move to the people who liked the first two. Not particularly interested in the conclusions of those people because we could have had Jodorowsky's Dune. We already had David Lynch's Dune, which was much better, and we had the Sci-Fi Channel Dune, which is both better stylized than the David Lynch one and better stylized than this fucking thing, even though it's supposedly quote unquote serious sci-fi, you cunts. But spice. The spice melange must flow.
She would need to be strong, like her mother. What if it's a boy?
I would name him Leto. So he would have the wisdom.
Anything.
Underneath the rage, there is nothing but boredom. I am only maintaining interest because I am enraged. And when all I have is a combination of rage and boredom, it's not a good sign, shall we say. But in case I need to say it again, fuck Christopher Nolan and fuck all of the inheritors and copycats that have taken his aesthetic as the quote-unquote serious way you do fucking sci-fi and fantasy concepts. Anyway, Spice.
Of his grandfather.
War feeds on itself.
Okay. To avoid being a broken record, I'm going to start recommending movies that are visually and conceptually more interesting than this overly grounded, overly stale, overly pretentious horse piss. If you want a movie about reality bending space drugs that do reality bending space drug things, John dies at the end. If you want a movie that feels like a reality bending space drug trip with a lot of like spiritual and philosophical overtones, Naked Lunch. If you want a like sci-fi explicitly version of either of those two things, there is a little known and very, very low budget movie called The Last Mimsy. Not only would I recommend this as an antidote to this bullshit, but I would also recommend it even as an antidote to the first Doctor Strange movie, because Last Mimsy was made for an absolute pittance and may have actually been direct to video, and yet it does more visually and conceptually interesting things than even the first Doctor Strange movie did, much less this faux fucking Game of Thrones in space crossed with Gus Van Sant Jerry horse piss. Slice.
The more I fight, the more our enemies fight back. I'm doing the best I can to protect my family.
Okay. It's in a slightly different space of genre, but, and again, returning to my listing better mind-bendy, trippy movies than this shit. Darren Aronofsky made a movie called Pi. It's about sort of the existential horrifyingness of when you like treat logic and mathematics as a fundamental force of the universe. And or the like almost detached godhood existentialism that results from saying. So essentially that's more the mentat side of Dune, but if you want something that will make you feel what it must feel like to be like a navigator or a mentat from Dune, Darren Aronofsky's Pi. There's also a Guy Ritchie movie called Revolver, which is explicitly about how equations can warp reality and is loosely based on, it's like a pulp crime thriller, but it's loosely based on some of Guy Ritchie's experiences and studies into Kabbalah and Kabbalah symbolism. So there again, you have another focusing more on the reality bendy drug sort of angle. I mean, if you want just a straight up drug movie, then Trainspotting, obviously. It doesn't have the sci-fi implications or the reality bending mystery of John dies at the end or like Dune is supposed to fucking have. But it is a perfect movie of this is your brain on all the drugs. Yeah. I will pause there and continue my list when we reach the next pause point. Spice.
How did Father do it?
Your father never started a war.
Let me think. What are some other really good A Dangerous Method, I believe is what it's called. It's a take on Jungian psychology and the kind of mind-bendy psychology as reality programming sort of thing. That'll get you at least some of what Dune ought to have, but didn't. As will A Cure for Wellness, which was the most recent Gore Verbinski movie. That will take you into some weird weird existential places and
what is
do
it?
funny things.
Good luck, have fun, don't die.
I don't know if that does it, but then again, I haven't seen that yet, so maybe.
Yeah, good luck, have fun, don't die. That's what it's called.
Yeah. But again, I personally can't vouch for that one as I have not seen it yet. I'm hoping that Brainstormer isn't leading you guys astray. I assume he is not.
I haven't watched it either. You couldn't remember the name of the movie, so I was just getting it.
Yeah. Donnie Darko, obviously, but everyone and their dog knows Donnie Darko at this point. If you're into like mind bendy, trippy sorts of movies and you haven't seen Donnie Darko yet, what are you doing? What? Obviously, also, I mentioned this earlier, but if you want an infinitely better version of this one, if you want an infinitely better version of this source material, watch the original David Lynch one, or better yet, and then yes, I will say the Sci-Fi Channel original one from the miniseries from the 2000s is better than both. Is better than both the David Lynch one and this one. In the case of David Lynch, it's not by orders of magnitude, but in the case of comparing it to Denis Villeneuve, and yes, I said that to be as snooty and dismissive as possible. Fuck you, and fuck him entirely. But if you want a better version than what Denis Villeneuve bastardized here, watch the miniseries from the early 2000s Sci-Fi Channel. It's so much stylistically better than this, so much, and focuses more on the like reality bendy, trippy bullshit that is the spice, and also by proxy, also the religious and spiritual implications and shit. But yeah, there are so many movies made with a fraction of what this unspeakable horseshit costs, with better visuals, deeper concepts, trippier existentialism, better sort of portrayals of like poking at the fundamentals of reality. All the things that Dune is supposed to be, but isn't, because Christopher Nolan decided to suck all the fun out of everything, and then people like Denis Villeneuve and Chloe Zhao copied their fucking homework. Spice.
Nothing.
If you want a sci-fi movie like this that is, a fairly upscale big budget production, but with an actual decent visual and a decent visual language and a good color palette. As much as I have mixed feelings about Luc Besson because Fifth Element is boring as shit, there's a movie that he made a couple of years ago, probably with roughly the same budget as this, called Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, that adapted a bande dessinée, I believe, from France. Yeah, that movie will take you to similar trippy visual and conceptual places, but will do so with an actual fucking color scheme and an eye towards aesthetics, rather than the deliberate voiding of color and aesthetics on purpose to make the audience pissed, because we can only take it seriously as a dramatic and serious art form if we bore our audience to tears. We can't be both entertaining and deep. Who ever heard of any such thing? Derp. Ah. Twice.
I'm not afraid to die. But I must not die. Yet.
Anything or
I I've already said everything I'm going. And while there are other trippy or conceptually bizarre like mind trip movies that I could give, my rage is driving the rest of them from my mind at the moment. So because rage is also apparently the mind killer sometimes. But yeah, I've said everything I'm going to. Fuck Christopher Nolan, fuck all of his inheritors, fuck Denis Villeneuve, fuck Chloe Zhao, and fuck the entire Academy with this boredom as an aesthetic and a deliberate choice bullshit. Learn to color palette. Been able to do it since 1930s. Ugh. Rage.
so it comes out December 18th.
I'm sure it will make oodles of money because for some reason everybody likes this version, even though as weird, and I will give you, David Lynch is weird in a way that kind of pisses me off, a little bit like Ari Aster. But you know what? As much as Ari Aster annoys me, I can't accuse him of taking one of the most surreal, most philosophical, most spiritually important books and sucking all the style, all the substance, all of the everything out of it, and replacing it with a deliberate and active choice to be as boring as possible so that the art house snobs and their fucking octogenarian grandparents can think of, ooh, look how deep I'm being by subjecting myself to the most boring thing on the surface of this fucking planet. Because who ever heard of something being able to be revelatory in a deep way and also conceptually interesting and let alone fucking colorful? For all the shit that I gave James Cameron, justifiably, because the James Cameron's Avatar movies are shit, and they always have been. His like bioluminescence punk thing he came up with for Pandora is at least more visually interesting than this shit. Not by much, but it is. Again, I stress not by much. I hate the James Cameron's Avatar movies too, but at least James Cameron gave the appearance of trying instead of what Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve and Chloe Zhao have done, which is we are going to show you overtly that we are not trying. We are going to go for the most lo-fi naturalist aesthetic possible, and we're going to do it deliberately, even though we have all the money in the world and could very easily do literally anything else with it. So we are actively going to show you that we are not working, and we're going to expect you to praise us for it anyway. Holy hell. Meanwhile, things like The Last Mimsy get nothing in relation to budget and come out, I think, basically direct to video or having like a month window in the theaters. And they eat this entire movie series lunch for no other reason than Denis Villeneuve was too preoccupied getting Nolan Senpai to notice him and getting pats on the head from the Academy to actually make something that's worth fucking sitting through. Moving on. That is probably the most angry I'm going to get all night. Like, I get angry at other stuff. I'm default angry at a lot of things, but nothing pisses me off more than someone deliberately doing the opposite of what they know they should do and getting intellectual seriousness bona fides and kudos for it from pretentious hipster fucks who think boredom is a test of a true artiste or a true critic of artistes or some shit. Moving on.
Yeah. Alright. The official trailer for Moana live
The live
action.
action version. Yeah. Speaking of studios that need to fucking relearn what we learned in the late 1930s with The Wizard of Oz, Disney, apparently.
Coconut.
Coconut, yeah, why not? I was going to be slightly. I
know a girl from an island. She stands apart from the crowd. She loves the sea and her people. She makes her whole family proud.
I mean, again, I wasn't interested in Moana before, so I got nothing with this.
I'm gonna go on an aesthetic rant again. I'm sorry, but they keep making the same mistake. I can only sit through so much wrong before I have to point out that they are wrong in all the exact same way. This looks as though it was like if Saturday Night Live or some other like sketch show, like All That maybe from the 90s Nickelodeon, made a cheap for TV version of Moana, like for the sake of a skit or something. This is what it would look like. There is so low effort here. There is no attention to aesthetic. There is no attention to gravitas. There is no attention to color palette. There's no depth to the colors. Everything is flat. And yes, you're doing a live action version. Sure. But you know what? The Glenn Close 101 Dalmatians was live action but still colorful. The Pete's Dragon from a couple of years ago was live action and still colorful. The other Cruella from a couple of years ago, because Cruella is apparently the only one we can get right in live action for some reason, was live action but still had a decent color palette. But this just, again, it looks as though this was made for $1,000 maybe. Like I'm reasonably convinced you could get better costumes than that at a fucking Party City or Spirit Halloween or something. Like if you genuinely went the extra mile to like cosplay level and tried to do like authentic like Pacific Islander things, like authentic Polynesian stuff, you could do better than this. And yet I'm reasonably sure that this movie is going to have a 200 million sum production budget, isn't it? Just like they all do. And I don't know where that money went, but it sure as fuck wasn't on the screen. Because again, this is the sort of aesthetic I would expect a parody skit on like Jimmy Kimmel or Saturday Night Live to have if they parodied Moana. Hell, they did a parody of The Producers back in 2016 when Orange Man was first elected, and it was deliberately cheap looking to evoke like a theater aesthetic, and it looked better than this. So again, I must ask the question, and I realize I'm repeating, but it bears repeating because this is so fucking painful. If there is a $200 million price tag on this thing, where in any Polynesian god's name did it go? Like, are the Disney live actions, are the Disney live action versions just literal money laundering at this point? Because that's the only excuse I can think of as to why on earth all of these shots look like a bad parody that you would see in like a Freeberg and Seltzer movie. Like, what was the Freeberg and Seltzer parody of Twilight back in the day? Vampires Suck. This kind of look has the same vibe as what Vampires Suck was doing on purpose to show that it was a cheap parody version. Anyway, Coconut. When Brainstormer gets back, I assume he left while I was bemoaning the death of aesthetic understanding in Hollywood again.
I've returned briefly because the silence was damning.
Yep, sorry. I got to the end of my rant, and then I tried to coconut, and you weren't there to click.
Yeah, I said I'd be right back, which I'm still not done yet. So, all right.
Ah.
Okay. All right, Coconut.
Moana, listen. Do you know who you are?
The stories are true.
The story has just begun. Beyond our reef, an evil darkness has found us.
Okay, I'm gonna say it's weird that they're doing this one because there are like a few other like old Disney movies that they could do, and this is like a relatively recent one. I just think it's super weird.
It's been, I think, less than 10 years since the first one, and I know it's been less than 10 years since the second one, because the second one was like, what, 3-4 years ago, I think? It may not even be that old. So the animated version is still in progress, as in they could easily do an animated trilogy if they wanted to, and they're already live-actioning it. And again, I'm not even necessarily opposed to live action. What I am opposed to is people acting like live action is an excuse to be devoid of aesthetics. Or rather, so cheap with your aesthetics that they may as well be devoid of them. Because again, there are live action movies with a color palette similar to a cartoon. And not even the, lighthearted, colorful ones always. Like Peter Greenaway's famous The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, Her Lover has a color palette inspired from and aesthetically related to Baroque art, and it has a better color palette than this. It has a fucking amazing color palette as it happens, but that's my point. Even serious adult live action artsy fucking shit and no, this isn't me insulting The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, Her Lover. I own The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, Her Lover, and I don't own movies that I don't like. So, believe me, the highest honor I can pay a movie is to purchase it on premium video format. Which I do. I try to go for your 4K Ultra HD Special Edition Criterion Collection sorts of things. But yeah, that's a movie I own, and that's the highest honor I can pay to a movie. So, believe me, I'm not bad-mouthing Peter Greenaway here. I'm saying that even if you want the live-action cred or the art school cred, live action does not mean being devoid of fucking aesthetic. Does not mean being devoid of color. Does not mean being devoid of abstraction. You can translate. People make the argument that some things can't be translated into live action, but I call bullshit. Because I've seen things made for a fraction of what this movie costs that have better aesthetics than this movie. And it's not a matter of money. If you're smart with how you use a money, if you can, or a dollar, you can stretch that dollar and get a lot with even a little. Another case in point is the difference between a little known and forgotten show, a little known and forgotten fantasy show like Legend of the Seeker, and Amazon Rings of Power. Legend of the Seeker looks infinitely better because despite the fact that it's literally made for 1,000 times less than Rings of Power per episode, even despite that, they know how to use color, lighting, and aesthetics to their benefit and thereby make it look good. And you can replicate the same sorts of color schemes and lighting structures you have in animation with live action tools, especially in the era of CG. They just don't. And they've tricked everyone into assuming that that means they're impossible to do in live action. When what it actually is they just don't bother to try to replicate the actual visuals. They assume that live action means devoid of color and devoid of aesthetic and devoid of abstraction. And so we get shit. Despite the fact that most of the best looking live action movies have lots of color, lots of abstraction, lots of stylization, and lots of conceptualization. Look at the filmographies of Tim Burton. Look at the filmographies of Guillermo del Toro. Look at the filmographies of Sam Raimi, of Spike Jonze. There are ways to do this kind of work in live action and have it work. They're just not using them. And it's not even a matter of money or resources. Most of the movies that I just mentioned back when we were talking about Dune were also made with a pittance. And they went full, drug trip. So you're telling me that a movie like John Dies at the End or The Last Mimsy can go full spiritualist drug trip, but we haven't figured out in the multiple decades since Jim Carrey's The Mask or Son of the Mask how to do cartoony or animated aesthetic in live action. You can miss me with all of that shit. Both of those movies came out 2 decades ago and a decade and a half ago, respectively. You cunts.
You done?
Yes, now I'm done. Coconut.
Moana, the ocean chose you. Find Maui. Restore the heart of Te Fiti and save us all.
Maui, demigod of the wind and sea.
Why is the sky so desaturated? Like, this isn't even me harping on the stylization point. I have seen the sky recently. It is nowhere near that flat. That someone has chosen to make it look that flat on purpose when it doesn't need to. And again, and I realize this is me harping on the point again, but I have photo editing tools on my phone that could fix this in 5 seconds. Granted, I'd have to go through every single frame of the movie to do it. But don't sit here and tell me that there isn't some high-end Hollywood version that could do it to every frame at once. Don't sit here and try to sell me that shit. You may sell your bridge at the bottom of the Marianas Trench to some other rube, because I am not that rube, sirs and madams. In all seriousness, for the sun and sky to be that flat in a with a movie camera in today's day and age, you've made a deliberate choice to make it that flat. Like, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies came out, what, 20 years ago now? They were all live action. They were all significantly more stylized than this. Granted, they were expensive as shit, especially for the time. But we've there's been a decade's worth of advancement, particularly in the realms of photo and video editing and in CGI in today's day and age. So again, you're going to have to miss me if you're telling me that we can have good-looking island environments in things like Pirates of the Caribbean, but we can't have them in 2026's Moana live action because something just can't be filmed in live action. Fuck off. Fuck off entirely. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, kind of to add to your point on why it's so bad looking.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly on a soundstage, whereas with, I would say, a lot of the scenes in Pirates of the Caribbean, the movies, were more or less. Well, yes, I do acknowledge that there are some. I'm sure there are many scenes that are also filmed on soundstages, but they at least had a lot of practical elements to help with the scenes.
Yeah, and that
we're
helps.
mostly. Can I?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
A lot of like the island scenes, I believe, were filmed on a specific location, hence why they look so, so good, so natural and stuff.
And we've reached a point technologically where it's actually more expensive to do this kind of shit on a soundstage and cover it all up with CG than it is to just go to an island, especially because this is Hollywood, where if you wanted to sit there and tell me that not a single Disney executive owned like a timeshare on an island, or hell, just owned an island, depending on how high up in the Disney hierarchy we have to move, that they could. You're telling me that none of the Disney executives has a island vacation home that they like to use that they couldn't have used to help film this?
I want to point out that super rich people having islands is not a good thing to have these days.
No, but I'm saying this is a tool at your disposal. It's not exactly a great thing, sure, but given that we live in the dystopian hellscape we live in, given that we do in fact live in a dystopia, Miss Turner, use the tools that life has handed to you. Because otherwise you're a deliberately useless cunt. And I have very little patience for deliberately and intentionally useless cunts.
But that being said,
Go ahead.
add on to my point. So I made myself a quick dinner because I ate like around 2. I didn't have anything else. Yeah. Regarding the soundstage thing, like, so they do have like digital projectors that project a 3D, 3D backgrounds that actually look really good, like lit white, right, and stuff. Like you can adjust the color. Like they did that a lot with like the Batman scenes, in a lot of them. They looked good, right?
Yeah.
I think honestly,
no, go ahead. Yeah, fine. Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I'm almost done. I think personally, because I've done editing and stuff like this before, right?
Mhm.
It really does boil down to, well, like you said, the lighting, which, yes, is incredibly flat for some reason. Um, and also color grading
Yeah.
would be extremely helpful. And it's very bare, very, like, empty, and I don't know, look, and I'm speaking as someone who doesn't really get out much. Well, used to. I actually go out a lot more now than I ever did before.
Because work
But
is a son of a bitch. And they make you do things.
I work inside a factory, dude. I'm just talking about, like, I actually have the money now to actually go out and do stuff now. So
Eek Varbaturgle, someone actually got himself a life.
what's your
Granted,
excuse,
I
bitch?
also am getting out now more than I have done in the past, like, 10 years combined, probably.
Yeah. So glass houses and all that, but the world is far more colorful than, I don't know why the fuck anyone in Hollywood like does these kind of movies and do the saturation look and all.
I mean, this goes back to something we've been harping on for years. Both of us have, which is people assume that realism is essentially equivalent to a kind of softcore nihilism, and that none of the visually interesting or remarkable or even just pleasant-looking parts of reality count as parts of reality for some reason. But more to the point, and kind of rehashing something I brought up earlier, but your point about the color grading brought this to mind again. You, Brainstormer, you've seen the kind of things that I can do to a photograph, just fiddling with the filters and things on my phone.
Yeah, it's a bit much, but yeah.
Yeah, to the point that it gets almost it gets almost garish or glaring when I get done with the thing. As Brainstormer has repeatedly reminded me on many occasions. I'm not saying you have to go full like Dalton aesthetics. The world would probably be a better place if everyone went Dalton aesthetics, but
It's too much color.
I understand different strokes for different folks and so on, but you don't need to go all the way to where I would go with certain things in order to make them look good. You can meet somewhere in the middle, but you barely even have to toggle the fucking switch to make this look better. Because this is, if anything, this is significantly desaturated and decolorized, as in someone took a natural photograph that would have looked better and turned the color and style and precision and grading and pop and sharpening down unnecessarily. And I don't understand why. And again, I can do that on my phone. Granted, I have a Google Pixel, so it is a smartphone. But if every fucker on the planet has a smartphone now, which is the world in which we currently find ourselves, don't tell me there's no high-end Hollywood version. Hell, you could literally have a room full of interns doing nothing all day except taking one frame of a movie and doing what I do to it to some degree. And you would still wind up with a better color palette than this when you splice it all back together. Even if there wasn't a high-end Hollywood tool, which I'm absolutely certain there is.
Moving on.
Yeah. Coconut.
Hero of men.
Huh?
So it goes like this. Maui, shapeshifter, demigod of the wind and sea, hero of men. Ah, women. Women too. Men and women.
Thank you.
What in the fuck is that wig? What in all creation is that wig?
I don't think it looks bad.
It looks very. Maybe it's just me, but it does look very cheap. Granted, I am a person who, at least receding hairline or not, does have a actually long and lustrous head of hair.
Lustrous?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I think you're confusing lustrous with fucking like fuck, what's the word? Manic.
Okay, that's funny. Well done, sir. But point being, there are more realistic wigs they could have gone with. It looks
Look, I'm gonna be fully honest. I think if no matter what type of wig you put on The Rock, it's gonna look weird because everyone's so used to The Rock being bald that it just
Also,
would look
can he
unnatural.
not- Can he not grow his hair anymore? Because he used to have. I mean, his hair was still short, but he could at least grow hair back in the day.
I don't know. Plus, it would take too long for that to grow out like that.
But even then, you could like weave his actual natural hair in with his wig hair a little bit, like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings or Dumbledore in Harry Potter, and it would look better than whatever the hell is going on there. Also, he looks too small, which is not a thing I ever thought I would have to say about The Rock, considering how he looked for Black Adam. But like, I guess they caught Dwayne in the off season, and he just didn't give a fuck enough to bulk up a little bit for the character. One second, because I just realized that even if that were the case, they could solve this with camera angles, or by making The Rock look slightly bigger than he actually is, a little bit like they did with Chris Evans when he was playing opposite Sebastian Stan, because the actors are the same height in real life, so they had to do at least a little bit of jiggery pokery with the camera to make Steve look bigger. If they did something like that, then this wouldn't be a problem, because it would also help if they were shooting from the ground looking up at The Rock instead of down from like a sky eye view there. Again, a thing that could have solved at least some of the problem that would have taken 2 seconds, but they didn't bother. Coconut. We've got the lovely bunch.
See her light of the night in the sea. She calls me.
I need your help.
I'm not going on a mission with some mortal.
My island, my people won't survive if we don't make it. The ocean chose me for a reason. And it chose you too.
Okay, I just realized something. This isn't in the trailer, but they're going to have to do this unless they skip it. How the fuck are they gonna do the giant crab if this is the aesthetic they're going with, or rather this is the lack of aesthetic they're going with? Because if the CGI overall was better, I wouldn't be complaining as much, but like, holy hell, what the fuck are they gonna have to do to make the giant crab work? Something positive about Project Hail Mary that we forgot to mention is they went with mostly a puppet for Rocky and augmented it with CGI rather than doing it purely CGI. That was the
I
correct
didn't know
decision. Yeah. They did like Jim Henson style puppetry for Rocky. And then like fix some of the post production with CG. What happened?
No, I'm just cold.
Look at that.
It's yeah.
Listen, princess, if you're gonna do this, you gotta go through a whole ocean of bad.
I'm not a princess. I'm the daughter of the chief, leader of my people.
I
I mean, not to be semantic about it, but being the daughter of the chief does effectively make you a princess in the same way like Pocahontas is the Disney princess. And in the same way, Meg should technically be, given that she not only married a prince, she married a god prince, but she doesn't count as a Disney princess because Meg is too awesome, and everyone would prefer Meg if she was added to the list of Disney princesses
Egg?
from Hercules.
Oh, I'm sorry. My fucking
Your brain went
is-
to Family Guy, didn't it? Shut up,
No,
brainstorming. But I'm Tish.
no, I just. I am so
Yeah,
fucking tired.
For some reason, Meg from Hercules doesn't count as a Disney princess, even though she married not just a prince, but a god prince.
Huh. I've never actually thought of her. You know, I didn't think of that. Huh.
Technically, it's by marriage, but that's also true for Cinderella, as far as we know. And no, it's not. So, yeah. So, yeah, Meg should definitely count as a Disney princess, but doesn't because I am convinced Meg is too awesome, and everyone would prefer Meg.
Hold on. I got a joke for this.
Hmm.
Disney refuses to make Meg a Disney princess because she is a queen.
Based. And yet they frequently include both Anna and Elsa, even though Elsa, to Disney's credit, is also a queen.
Oh yeah. They
So
don't put
yeah,
Rapunzel in there. So I'm just not realizing that.
do they not? I thought they did. I thought ever since Tangled they did.
I've just never seen her in the lineup. Or to my knowledge, to be fair, I don't really pay attention to Disney anymore. So
Yeah, they've burned a lot of the goodwill.
no,
I'm
gonna be honest. I stopped caring about Disney like after. How was it? I think after like the 2010s, like after the late 2000s, early 2010s.
What was the last Disney IP you actively sought out to watch as a kid? Okay.
Shit. Might have been Gravity Falls.
I think it was Gravity Falls for me too. I wanted to say Sweet Life on Deck, but you're right. I think Gravity Falls was after Sweet Life on Deck. So yeah. But apart from Gravity Falls, which got a lot of adult fandom because when you put in the effort to make something good, period, people of all ages will show up and enjoy it. It's the thing Disney used to be really fucking good at. But now we have to outsource it to Laika Studios that's
Right.
doing both Disney and Pixar's job better than either of them do anymore. I'm just imagining an alternate universe where the Laika movies are made by Disney, and that would make Mitch a Disney prince. Base. Lol.
I think I need to watch. I think I've watched the Leica movies in very sparse sittings, and they're like,
I bust them out most often around Halloween.
yeah, they do have that vibe.
They are
I
very.
recently-
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I saw a video. I watched it briefly, but I don't remember it. Of someone like suggesting that Leica should do a Wizard of Oz adaptation.
Okay, that exists somewhere out in the multiverse now, and I'm jealous as fuck. Because, like, realistically, you're never going to be able to top the 1939, and you're not going to be able to top Wicked. But if Leica was to start fresh and not lean on the aesthetics of either Wicked or the 1939 movie, if they earnestly went from the ground up from the books and went aesthetically with their own thing, that could
I would say
genuinely
like
do.
a mix. Sorry,
Go ahead.
I would say like a mix of box trolls with
Kubo.
a Kubo.
Yeah, I
Either
would
that or
I
like
would
something similar. Okay, sorry.
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say either that or something very similar to. I don't know if you know this adaptation of Wizard of Oz, but Tin Man.
Yes.
It's like a Sci-Fi Channel miniseries.
Yeah.
I
It's-
watched it one
it's-
sitting. It's not as good as I thought it was, but it's not bad.
A slight tweak, though. I think the Tin Man should aesthetically lean a little bit heavier on steampunk, which, admittedly, the Tin Man version was kind of already. But I think Leica could have a lot of fun with like the whole Clockwork Soldier kind of vibe with the Tin Man.
Anyway, or unless right, did you?
I'm still here. We're good.
No. I mean, you had some. I cut you off, so I was like,
No, I'm good. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know what Leica's version would look like. I'm hoping it would kind of take bits and pieces of all of the Oz's and also do kind of its own like a unique thing. I do think that the Wicked Witch of the West would have at least some visual similarities to the most purified version of the Beldame, if nothing else, if for nothing else than a reference to their own kind of oeuvre. Like if the Wicked Witch had a more spidery vibe to her that was reminiscent of the Beldame for inside reference reasons. I think that could be cool.
all right, moving on.
Yep. Coconut.
Are you ready to be the hero?
Let's go save the world.
I got your back.
Okay, I will give it to them that looked slightly better. So
Is there something
perhaps
going here?
that's where all the money went. Actually, come to think of it, there is a Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie from a couple of years ago that features islands heavily. Anyone remember Journey to the Mysterious Island?
Yeah, I had that movie on DVD. It was actually really fun.
Better color scheme than this, better CGI than this, better aesthetic than this, and came out almost a decade ago, or more than a decade ago. I think it wasn't like 2012, 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. Or am I being old again? And it was like 2009. I might be being old again. But that's the thing though. I don't feel older than, like, in my head. I'm still like, I still feel like an early 20 something. Insofar as I ever did, because like I said, I've always had kind of an old soul thing going on. But when I was going through my 20s, that's still basically how I feel now, even though I'm 30. So I might be being old again and forgetting the passage of time is a thing. Because I have that millennial time blindness where I will still maintain to my dying breath that the 80s was 20 years ago, the 90s was 10 years ago, and the 2000s should be now still. God damn it, millennial time blindness.
Okay. 2012, Journey to Mysterious Island.
Okay, so I wasn't so crazily far off. I was in the rough ballpark that I thought I was in. Good, hooray! The ghoul of time blindness has yet to vex me again today.
Also,
Hooray.
apparently, it's only an hour, basically 4 hour and a half long.
Yeah, I mean, movies have gotten longer in recent decades. It used to be that 90 minutes thing used to be the standard. Then movies started to get longer, which frankly I prefer. I prefer longer movies because longer movies feel like they give me my money's worth more, at least when they're good enough to justify their time. When a movie isn't good, then it drags no matter how short it is. But movies, longer movies do tend to give me my money's worth, and so I genuinely prefer Hollywood having stories to tell that require 2 to 2.5 hours. I wouldn't even be against 4-hour movies as long as there was an intermission in the middle, like there is during a theatrical performance.
Okay.
They used to do that once upon a time, and I wish they would go back to doing it. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. So this is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Something I didn't know what was happening.
I've known there was a TV version of Harry Potter planned for a while now. I was hoping it would die before it made it to screen. Apparently, those hopes are being dashed. Now, mind you, I don't like Harry Potter. I was very, very obsessed with it when I was younger because I was a millennial, and for millennials, Harry Potter was our childhood. But it's a very, very...
What was Gen Z? I guess it was Twilight, right? Like,
I guess so, considering that I was in middle school when Twilight was a thing and all the Twilight clones were a thing. So maybe Twilight was your... I feel bad for you because that's an explicitly teen focused that's an explicitly teen focused fucking IP. So, well, no, I guess you guys have the MCU. The MCU is your thing.
I don't know. It's complicated. So we had there were a lot of fads when we were growing up.
Yeah, us too. At first it was Harry Potter / like fantasy boom. Then Twilight and Hunger Games hit, so it was a combination of romantasy and YA novel, and extra points if you could do both at the same time. And then it was the MCU, and then we are in between phases right now, as in there is currently no dominant force within pop culture right now. We're headed for a dry spell similar to the early 2000s, I think.
Actually, okay, I would make the argument with indie animation starting to really become a big boom. Mainly in the internet circle, mind you, but like look at all these shows on YouTube that are popping up. So
I'm not sure you could make the case for the Helliverse because I think the Helliverse is more of a Gen Alpha thing.
Well, depends on who's letting them watch it, mind you.
Or kids, as ever, being smart enough to get around mommy and daddy's parental controls. Like,
well, again, that's on the parents. But point also, I'm not really sure if I count that Helliverse at this point.
Yeah, like I said, that's more Gen Alpha's thing than it is a Zoomer thing. I guess you guys had You guys had Adventure Time, you had Steven Universe, and you had Gravity Falls. That was your guys' things.
I want to make the argument, but that show came out in like 2002.
Which
Red
show?
versus Blue. Ruby was definitely like that was because that was 2013 when it first came out. So I was like in middle school, and that was a thing.
Yeah, Ruby would count. Star versus the Forces of Evil would count. Over the Garden Wall is your guys's.
That was good. I
Regular
remember that.
show,
That was good.
regular show, I think is yours. Although you could make an argument for that being a bridging the gap sort of show.
Yeah, I'd argue that was bridging the gap.
You guys
I think there was
definitely you guys definitely have the computer animated Ninja Turtles because our Ninja Turtles was the 2003 one.
I feel like it was. Okay, yeah, I meant. I mean, I remember 2003. Like, I watched that. I watched its sequel series as well. I remember
Right.
watching that.
Right, but it's more ours than it is yours, is what I'm saying.
Okay, Gatekeeper.
I'm just trying to keep the chronology of the generation because, granted, I wish we could go back to generations lasting 20 years because the boomers had from 46 to 64, then Gen X for some reason has 65 to 86, and then millennials have from 87 to 97. So the generation, for whatever reason, keep getting fucking shorter, and it annoys me. I think everybody should have 20 years to their generational name, and we should call it there.
But yeah, such a weird tangent. Yeah, HBO Max is doing a. I don't know if it's like a rebooted movie franchise or if it's a series or something. It's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So
it's a series, but they're rebooting the movies. They're doing what the movies did as a show, or trying to. Like it's not.
It's labeled Harry. It's just like this is the trailer's labeled Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So that's what's confusing me because I know
each season is supposed to be an arc. I assume they'll change the subtitle as they go.
That's stupid and confusing on so many levels.
It is dumb, but foreshadowing, folks, because it's not the dumbest thing they're gonna do wrong.
You've seen this?
I have. I will withhold my usual aesthetics, goddammit, rant until we see both sides of the world, because they do desaturate a bunch of shit. And I know someone out there is going to make the argument that they're deliberately desaturating the Muggle world to contrast it with the magical world a little bit like the magicians did. But they're not doing that because Hogwarts is also desaturated. We'll get there when we get there. Chocolate frogs.
Okay.
I told you. You are a normal boy. And you're going to start acting like one. You think you're something special?
I can't tell if this is supposed to take place at unless they're keeping it set in when the books were coming out, like time wise, or if this is supposed to be modern day. Because either way, I don't know. It's just like the mistreatment.
I think they're trying to modernize it. I think, just like the movies were contemporaneous with the movies rather than being set in the late 80s.
I just think the mistreatment of Harry is like, I don't know if that really would fly.
Yeah, you're not getting away with that in 2026. You're getting called, you're getting Child Protective Services call on you or whatever the UK equivalent is. Just in general, let alone if you went this far.
Okay, to be fair, since it is a governmental system, it does have its issues, and things do tend to fall between the cracks. And
Also,
as
to
that
be
is,
fair, sorry, go ahead. Also to be fair, the kind of shit that the Dursleys get away with Harry wouldn't have flown even in the 80s and 90s. That's why the Dursleys didn't even acknowledge that Harry existed a lot of the time. They pretended that any noise that he caused was the cat or something. Like, I remember there's an exchange in Chamber of Secrets where Harry is wrestling with Dobby because Dobby is being an idiot. And, well, he's being an idiot in hopes of getting Harry in trouble so that he can't go back to Hogwarts because Dobby's worried about Harry getting involved with the Chamber of Secrets as per the title. And they were Vernon and Petunia were throwing a dinner party in the living room, which was downstairs, or the drawing room because British, and Vernon tried at first to attribute the noises to the cat rather than acknowledging they had another child there. So yeah, even in the 80s and 90s when the books would have been coming out, and the 90s and 2000s where the movies were coming out, you couldn't have actually gotten away with the shit the Dursleys did to Harry openly without having Child Protective Services or the equivalent call on you. So they had to lie. So presumably they're still fucking lying. But if they're still fucking lying and they're still being the Dursleys, this is weird because this is Aunt Petunia talking with Harry in almost the same way as she would one of her own children. So they've either softened the edges on Aunt Petunia or they're changing the dynamic between Harry and the Dursleys a bit, which is weird, considering that vilifying the Dursleys as the worst parts of Muggledom, essentially.
can you
Yeah.
just, we're only 20
Yeah.
seconds in.
Chocolate frogs.
Special? There is nothing special about you.
I've always wanted to know about my parents.
I don't think they're softening it.
I don't know. Because it's... First of all, the aesthetic is shit. But again, I will get into that once the Hogwarts stuff also proves to be...
Honestly, we don't really give a shit. Let's be fully honest. We don't give a shit about any of this.
I mean, there's a little bit of protective nostalgia because I am a millennial and Harry Potter was a part of my childhood. And whatever you may say about the first couple Harry Potter movies, I will specify that I mean the first couple Harry Potter movies, because the starting with Prisoner of Azkaban, they look like shit, and it annoys me. But the Christopher Columbus Harry Potter movies, Philosopher's Stone / Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets, were very aesthetically formative to my idea of style. So it does matter to me, despite my general disdain for Harry Potter and how much I wish my generation had gotten into the Dresden Files rather than Harry Potter from a young age, because the fantasy genre would be in a better place overall if that were the case. Period. And it wouldn't have taken me 20 fucking years to realize how awesome the Dresden Files was, but que sera. But yeah, for the sake of nostalgia and for the sake of whatever you may say about Harry Potter, the one thing it had going for it, at least in the first 2 Harry Potter movies proper and the first Fantastic Beasts movie, they had aesthetics going for them. And to see one of the few things Harry Potter did right go wrong is annoying. Even more annoying than the absence of aesthetics usually is for me, which is considerably, as we can see by the rants I've gone on up until this point. But chocolate frogs.
Alright.
Your parents were the kindest, bravest people I ever met. They were funny and clever. And they stood up for what they believed was right. The next time I see you, we'll be in Hogwarts.
I'm not going to nitpick Hagrid too much because they did try to make him look right. It does look as though they put him on Ozempic, i.e. he's lost a lot of weight and lost a lot of the corresponding jelliness that he had, and he is supposed to be half giant, so that is somewhat
He
disappointing.
was sitting down.
Still, when
I think you're very-
when
You know,
OG Hagrid sat in a chair, there was still bulk to him and weight to him and shit. But nitpicking, chocolate frog.
That's what you do. That's all you ever do. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just tired.
I know. Chocolate
This shit
frog.
annoys me. I don't give a shit.
Mm.
Mr. Potter, I think we can expect great things from you.
I mean, it doesn't look too bad.
Not in this frame, no. But unfortunately, it is a continuous. It is a visual medium where the visuals move from scene to scene, and a lot of these scenes look flatter than. A lot of these scenes look flatter than the Muggle parts of the previous movies did. So that's. That's obviously Ollivander doing the voiceover. They did a decent job finding an equivalent to John Hurt, but nobody's gonna be able to do the "He who must not be named did great things, terrible but great" speech better than John Hurt. Nobody's gonna be able to do that, and that's going to be a problem the whole way through because J.K. Rowling cashed in all her clout to basically make sure that the who's who of high class, like Shakespearean trained British actors got in the first time. So there's only going to be negative performance comparisons, frankly. That being said, that's even if they were equivalent, you're going to get some level of nostalgia blinders on. But chocolate frogs.
see who you are.
Yeah, I still disagree with you. It didn't look that bad.
It reminds me a little bit of the Netflix Sandman, frankly, with how comparatively flat it looks.
I'm gonna ask you a question. Are you gonna watch this at all?
Yes. Yes. You know me. If I hate something, I have to watch it in order to hate it properly. I'm not gonna hate it on false pretenses. I'm going to hate it because I'm informed enough to hate it.
Fair enough. I still don't care.
I know. The Pottermania missed your generation. We just went through that bit. And to be fair, Harry Potter is a terribly written franchise with holes you could drive entire caravans of semis through, world building and character wise. But what it had was a sense of wonder and a decent aesthetic. And I'm just not getting enough of those here. It's like the two things that J.K. Rowling could do, and they translated well into the movies, and they didn't manage to do them here. Granted, given how flat Rings of Power looks, and given what we just went over with the Hollywood simply does not give a fuck about aesthetics or making things look even passably good anymore, this was always going to happen. It's just I've seen a lot of people calling this Temu Harry Potter, and frankly, I think that probably is even a little too nice. This is Wish levels of Harry Potter. But chocolate frogs.
Are you really Harry Potter?
Now, I just want to be clear. I'm not attacking the child actors because they are child actors, and so I will cut them a little bit of slack. Granted, this trailer didn't contain enough for us to really get a sense of charisma, if any of them have any. So we shall see on the child actors. Everyone on the production side can kiss my ass though, because this is just sad. Moving on to the next thing, where Brainstormer's probably going to be taking most of the lead, and I'm going to be where he is, at least roughly here. Although, frankly, I'm more positive on the Tom Holland era of Spider-Man than he is.
Well, Spider-Man's not your big thing, and also it's been very clear that you and I have very different tastes.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say you have shit taste, but that would come off as rude.
Also, it would be demonstrably and provably false, considering that, not to be rude, but I do outclass you a bit.
Oh yes, the hoity-toity, smarmy, jackass, aristocratic wannabe.
You are accurately describing reality, you're just describing it in negative terms. The point being, given that my sense of taste actually works, mine is the one we will be thrusting, to paraphrase Jack Sparrow.
I just don't need to be gilded out in fancy shit to have value in myself.
And there we go. There, that was Turnabout is fair play. Fair enough.
Yeah, but the Spider-Man brand new day trailer. I've made no secret that I'm the biggest fan of the direction they've gone with Tom Holland. I got nothing against the actor; he's done the best he can. I just think the writing hasn't been there.
I think the biggest elephant in the room with regards to this is, does the MCU even have enough gas in the tank for another Spidey trilogy? Because it really feels like this might be the last one. In the same way as I'm almost certain I'm never getting a Doctor Strange 3. And if we do, there's a 50% chance they'll throw caution to the wind and let Sam Raimi do whatever he wants, which is the correct option. And then there's a 50% chance that they will watch that movie like a hawk because they're so afraid of doing anything that will displease anyone that it'll be shit. So the MCU might die before we get anything more than this, but we'll see.
So what I was gonna say was, no, I got nothing. Let's move on because I'm fucking tired.
Yep.
Fucking you get up at 5. God damn it. Okay.
Banana.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Sorry. My fucking brain just. I should have taken a nap. God damn it. Okay.
Brainstormers depixelating. Like
yeah, that's what happens.
Like a one.
That's what happens. Oh, shit. God damn it. It's what happens when you basically wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and are up for the rest of the day. That tends to happen. Your brain starts to deteriorate a little bit.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, mine is in the process of defragging, and I've been up since about 10:30. So yeah.
I got you beat by about 6 hours.
Yeah.
Or 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Spider-Nana.
Spider-Nana.
I can't believe our first hit MIT! MJ, come on. Pretend like you're not the happiest you've ever been in your entire life.
I can't.
I knew it!
Okay.
Stab. Twist.
Visually doesn't look too bad. Again, my major issue is I still feel no real true connection to this Peter Parker. Like I don't know. I just never felt like there was ever an established base to get me to connect or engage with his stories. If that makes sense, like.
I mean, Spider-Man is your character, so that's a fucking indictment that you as a Spider-Man fan feel nothing. I tend to gravitate towards him just on simple likability. I think Tom Holland is by far the most likable of the Peter Parkers we've gotten thus far. Because Toby always struck me as a little bit of a bitch, and Andrew Garfield's version was frankly too cool to be convincingly Peter Parker. He wasn't enough of a nerd.
Okay, it depends on what version of Peter Parker we're talking about, because there are different eras of Peter Parker and stuff. It's a whole thing. Anyway, again, I got nothing against Tom Holland, but he lacked this Peter Parker, no matter what age he is, and I'm not even going to get into the whole high school thing, because other people have discussed that constantly. But he's a bootlicker. The whole Mr. Stark thing, the whole Iron Man Jr. bullshit, that's one of my bigger issues.
I think you might be laying it on about thick to call him a bootlicker, because Spidey's always acted that way around people who he considers to be authority figures like Captain America and stuff. It's
Okay, hold on. Let me
go ahead.
To counteract that to counterpoint. Captain America, I can understand, because Spider-Man has a huge. Everyone likes Captain America, basically. He's a real fucking hero, right? They respect the guy. That's cool. Plus, they had that little thing, and I kind of wish they would have explored that more with the whole Queens and Brooklyn thing. Yeah, but with Tony Stark, specifically in the comics, it's very well known that they fucking hate each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the facial hair bros meme. A lot of people unironically wanted facial hair bros in the MCU, and I kept screaming, did you guys not read the comic where that's a thing? It's very obviously Tony being as annoying as he possibly can be to Strange, and Strange finally acquiescing and knuckling under just shut Tony up, frankly.
Right.
So I get that to some degree. Yeah. I feel like, sorry, not to cut you off, but I feel like some of what happened in the MCU and why the mismatch happened is they kind of gave Tony Reed's role, because the kind of almost paternalistic aspect to cinematic Tony and Peter's relationship is the kind of thing that he did actually have in the early comics with Reed Richards when Spider-Man was going to be a fifth member of the
I understand the rights thing. I completely understand that. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. It just does not feel. For one thing, it doesn't even really feel genuine. Like, the actors have but just for the characters and their like personalities, even as they are in the MCU, they don't feel like it doesn't feel like a genuine thing. It felt very contrived. To me, at least. That again, that's my opinion, so please take it with a pinch of salt, or a grain of salt, just so.
And also keep in mind that he is the Spider-Man fan, so his opinion probably should carry more weight than mine. Most of my feelings, if I have any at all, towards these characters are the cinematic versions. I actually do have some level of fandom for Tony Stark, because I did grow up on the Iron Man cartoon from the 90s. And
I grew up on Our Adventures.
That being said, because of that, I do know that RDJ was a very good fit for Tony Stark personality-wise. And like I said, I do like Tom Holland of the three Spider-Mans that we've gotten in live action. I feel like he's a good balance of Tobey's geekiness with Andrew's like competency and tendency to be a bit of a snarky smartass when he's under the mask there.
I also want to point this out. visually, it's a lot more interesting than all 3 other movies. Like from the upside down shot and this shot too, it feels a lot more kinetic and a lot more
Oh,
just
you
more
mean like
visual.
shot composition wise? I was trying to think of like visually and aesthetically what the difference was, and I was drawing a
Yeah,
blank.
it feels more visually engaging than the other like MCU Spider-Man movies, to me at least. Again,
I hope we get some version, some like MCUified version of Andrew's swinging dynamics, because that was one of the best parts of the Andrew Garfield era. That, mind you, I don't like the Andrew Garfield era very much, but one aspect in which they are head and shoulders above both MCU version and Sam Raimi Tobey Maguire version is they Mark Webb, and yes, it is funny to me that the guy whose last name is Webb directed a Spider-Man series of movies, but being that as a man, he focused on the swinging in the same way that the How to Train Your Dragon movies focused on the like visceral experience of the dragon riding, and I would like to see that make a comeback to this version. So that would be nice if we got some swing motif there. Go ahead.
I still disagree with you on the. Yeah, I still disagree with you on the Andrew Garfield thing. But yeah, again, just not enough faith has been.
You've gotten burned 3 times by the MCU by your standards, so yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
So, anyway. Also, I'll get into it. No, I'll bring it up now.
Okay.
The movie's title is Spider-Man Brand New Day, correct?
Yes.
And okay, I can understand from a perspective that Peter still holds on. I was getting there. That Peter's still holding on to whatever fragments, even though at the end of No Way Home, he gave up trying to reestablish his connection with MJ and Ned.
Mm-hmm.
But here, he's still basically like watching them from afar.
Mm-hmm.
But with the title Brand New Day, I don't know. It feels like they're backtracking on that.
I see it more as he tried to let them go, and the emotions kind of keep pulling him back because they were his friends, and in MJ's case, his would have been girlfriend if they had gotten a chance. But as per the Spider-Man luck syndrome, it didn't happen. But yeah,
okay. You know what? No, I'll save that for when we get a little more into the trailer, because I don't want to talk about everything in the first 20 seconds.
Spider-Nana.
Spider-Nana.
Hi, my name is Peter Parker. You don't remember me, but we used to know each other. Something bad was going to happen, and the only way to stop it was to make everyone forget about me.
Okay, so a lot of people were excited about this. It shows that Peter is suffering. Is having a bad everything.
As is pretty standard practice when it comes to Peter Parker, because the spider luck.
okay, speaking as a fan of Spider-Man, not like the quintessential fan or anything, like Dawn likes to say I am for whatever reason.
For you, it's Superman with DC and Spider-Man with Marvel. For me, it's Doctor Fate with DC and Doctor Strange for Marvel.
I honestly, I wouldn't even say that's Spider-Man from Marvel. I don't know who from Marvel really, because I don't really think about Marvel much.
See, that surprises me. I would have thought that it would be a toss-up between Spider-Man and Cyclops for you, because I know how much you simp for Scott.
But that's only recently. I haven't. I'll be honest. X-Men has not really been in my biggest purview of anything.
Hmm.
I'm still getting into Marvel, to be honest. I grew up DC all the way, so. But
I have a strong preference for DC, but I have at least a little bit love left over for Marvel.
No, I'm not saying I don't like Marvel. I'm just saying like I'm not as enveloped in it as some people are.
Mm.
I have more of a connection with DC than anything else. That's pretty
Mm.
much all I watched growing up. But
yeah, me too.
The whole,
me too.
Okay, I'm back to this. The suffering. Okay, for one thing, I don't feel like it's earned. Honestly, it feels like they're just putting him in there. It doesn't really feel natural that he's going through all of this. Mainly because, like with No Way Home, all of that just felt super forced, super. Just
The movie bent over backwards to give the fans what they wanted, even if it didn't make internal sense or not.
yes, yeah.
Which, if you have to bend the rules of the universe backwards to change for some reason, giving the fans what they want is a hell of a lot more preferable than spiting the fans. So there's that.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, like, I think it could have been done better. And I think I've come up with ideas and pitches on stream before of how it could be.
Mm-hmm.
But
one thing I will say that I don't like about this, and this is more of a No Way Home's problem than this movie's problem. It feels as though this movie and No Way Home are trying to imply that Aunt May dying in No Way Home is the start of the Great Power, Great Responsibility arc, and that Uncle Ben never happened. But we know, and it was alluded to in I want to say Civil War, that Uncle Ben had already happened. So I don't like that this is acting as though, I know Brand New Day, the idea of it being a fresh start is a thing, but I didn't like the way they framed it in No Way Home, and I don't like that they're kind of continuing it here as though Uncle Ben never happened and that Aunt May dying was his great power, great responsibility moment, instead of what this should actually be, which is this is a version of Spider-Man for whom the great power, great responsibility thing has happened 3 times, because Uncle Ben, then the surrogate father or adopted father thing with Tony, which I know you don't like, but is definitely a thing in this Peter's character. And then losing Aunt May again in No Way Home. So this has happened to him 3 times, and I feel like that's never going to get addressed, and it needs to be fucking addressed.
All right, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It just this all feels empty to me. I'm gonna be honest.
which is about the lowest, the lowest criticism he can condemn something to, is when something feels empty.
Yeah. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Because I'm not just Peter Parker. I'm Spider-Man.
The hell, Frank? You just hit me with a van!
Quit your whimpering. Suit yourself.
Okay, so I guess this does take place either in between or during. No, probably in between Daredevil Born Again season 1 and season 2, or somewhere. I don't know.
Assuming that they even give a damn at this point about the continuity.
Probably not. That was another thing I was going to point out. Is somewhat of confusing, where this takes place. But I will say a positive in a way is this feels more natural of a crossover between characters. Spider-Man and Punisher cross paths multiple times.
They do, just like Spider-Man and Punisher, or Spider-Man and Daredevil do. And Doctor Strange is actually the character Spider-Man crosses over with the most.
Okay, that's it. Oh, I didn't know. That's really interesting.
Which obviously I enjoy as a Doctor Strange fan. In fact, one of the better Doctor Strange one-off stories is the Spider-Man story first. Spider-Man Fever. I really like a lot of what Spider-Man Fever tried to do. I liked it more from a conceptual standpoint than a writing standpoint, but it was still pretty good from a writing standpoint, or at least decent from a writing standpoint.
All right, shall we?
Yep.
Spider-Man.
Go home!
And sometimes Spider-Man has to do the hard thing, even if it breaks Peter Parker's heart. What is happening to me?
So, looks like they're going to be doing some variation, or maybe just adapting Man Spider.
On the mutation disease, yeah.
And he's getting... So, okay, whole debate with either mechanical or biological web shooters. I could take either, to be fully honest. I don't really care.
I like it better because it ties him more inextricably to the spider theming. Peter chooses the spider theming in the comics, but if he hadn't chosen the spider theming, there's nothing about his powers that scream spider inherently. With the biological web shooters, he is inextricably bound to the spider theme. I also like it for this version because this version of Peter has interacted with Tobey Maguire's Peter, and therefore he knew that this was a possibility. And I know it would probably detract a little bit from this movie having a tidy story, but please, for the love of God, have him address that. Have that be a meaningful factor in his calculations when this starts happening to him, because he has met a Peter Parker with the bio shooters, so this should be something that comes to his mind. If it doesn't come to his mind and they don't acknowledge it, I'm going to be pissed.
All right. I think okay, I hate being negative. I really do, but
I know.
just kind of an issue. I mean, they kind of touched on it, and in Homecoming, they had a whole montage of it, but it was framed as a bad thing more than anything.
Mm.
Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a concept that got forgotten a lot in the MCU movies.
Well, because in the MCU movies, it was externally imposed upon him rather than being a thing he chose for himself. It was Tony being the parental, strict dad figure, being like, now, Peter, you stick to your curfew and you stay within this neighborhood of superheroics, basically.
That's fair. I'm just. Well, there's also because the first introduction of Peter Spider-Man to the MCU was him being part of a big, in air quotes, battle of
Civil War.
Civil War. So, and he's young, and I get that. I don't know. It's just the major thing about Spider-Man is that he's even when the big fights and stuff that are happening, he's looking out for the little people,
Mm.
And that's just a huge factor of his character that is we mentioned with the whole you mentioned with the whole Uncle Ben thing, that kind of is actively being chosen to be forgotten.
Yeah, and especially the fact that this Peter got hit with the great power, great responsibility stick three times at least. You could argue that him making the hard choice and having Strange modify the Runes of Kafkal spell counts as 4 now, because in addition to the Aunt May thing, there's also the I made everyone, including everyone that I love, forget me thing, which I feel at least in principle should count, because in many ways he watched his old life or his old self die in that instance.
Yeah, like I said, shot composition is a lot better in this movie compared to the others.
Who was doing this one?
Is it
still...
I don't think it's John. Hold on. Hold on. I have slow internet. Destin Daniel Cretton.
Oh, the same guy that did
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi, yeah. Which I guess makes sense for the shot composition and the fight composition being better, because Destin Daniel Cretton does have a good mastery of hand-to-hand, like how to shoot and how to present hand-to-hand fights.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's why it looks better. Huh. All right. You know what? I will save, because I've had these ideas for a while. How I think this movie could have been better improved in terms of actually sticking with the title. I'll save those towards the end, because we got a little more to go.
Yep.
We're only halfway through. Spider-Nana. I want to. I'm trying to think of the song here. No, I can't think of anything. Okay, sorry. I was trying to think of how I could sing the main Spider-Man theme song by using Spider-Nana. It's just not really coming to me, so never mind.
No.
All right, Spider-Nana.
Spider-Nana.
Oh, God.
Excuse me, Dr. Banner. I need your help.
What did you say your name was? If DNA is mutating, it would be enormously dangerous.
Okay, again, this is continuity isn't because why is he just a normal guy? Like again, I don't mind that they're having these characters in here, so long as they both serve a purpose and it makes sense. He's teaching at Empire State University, which is cool.
I mean, similar to your thing about him still watching over MJ and Ned. I have a slight problem with him just coming out and revealing himself to Hulk, effectively, even though it is in banner form. Because here's the thing, and it worked for the emotional core of No Way Home, but it screwed around with the logic of No Way Home, which is if the Avengers and like all the rest of them have memories of fighting alongside Spider-Man, why doesn't he go around, get all of his friends together as Spider-Man, get them in a room, take off the mask, introduce himself? Like, he might not be able to get MJ and Ned back, and you can still emphasize that part. You can still have him have to let go of MJ and Ned. But you could have him get the rest of the superhero community caught back up by getting all the people who he knows know Spider-Man in a room, take off the mask, reintroductions. And I bet even, and again, it would cripple No Way Home a little bit, but it would make more logical sense. You could even have him go to Strange, explain what happened with the Runes of Kal spell, and then have Strange research ways to potentially undo it. And again, I understand that would cripple No Way Home a little bit, but either manufacture a reason why he can't do that, or have him do at least some aspect of that.
I had thought of I thought No Way Home is a tricky thing because I have tried to rewrite it a few times. Mainly because Strange doing the spell is odd to me.
How do you mean? You wish Spidey had tried to do it himself and fucked it up?
No, I just I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but to me it doesn't make sense Strange would do it simply because I feel like he would know how dangerous the consequences would be of it if it were to mess up.
Well, I agree with you up until a point. They made it very clear at the end of Doctor Strange 1 that his character arc that he went through in the comics while he was training with the Ancient One wasn't finished yet, and that he still has some growing to do. So there's still that egotistical, I'm the smartest person in the room arrogance going for him. He hasn't fully grown out of that yet.
All right, fair enough.
I agree with you. I wish. Here's what I wish would have happened, because this would have solved like 30% of my problem with No Way Home. He goes to Strange. Asks him to do it. Strange gives him the exposition on what the Runes of Kal are and shit, but he says no. Then Peter waits for Strange and Wong to go off doing whatever it is they need to do. Hell, in an alternate version of the story, you could have the events of Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home happening at the same time, for all I care. But you have Peter go in, himself, open up the book, try to use the spell himself, fuck it up because he's a novice and this is the first spell he's ever actually tried, and then he fucks it up. Then Strange figures it out, tries to actually punish him for fucking around with the cosmic order and, natural law, and as the sorcerers want to do. Then that's the source of the fight, instead of the philosophical disagreement of we have to send them home to die versus we should save them and then send them home thing.
Also, I just had a fairly better lineup for the multiversal Sinister Six too. I was very proud of myself for.
Okay.
Well, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, obviously. Lizard, Electro, and Dane DeHaan's Harry Osborn as the Hobgoblin.
So that would be Andrew's Hobgoblin then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they did have him as the Green Goblin, but I would have changed him here because we had Norman as the Green Goblin, so...
Yeah, and Willem Dafoe is Willem Dafoe, and say what you will about the man, but he knows the assignment and how to chew that scenery like nobody's business.
And to have one, because you have a number, so that's 5, and the 6th one would have been Scorpion, which they already have him in here, but I feel like it would have been, well, it would have made more sense if he was there, because it's set up in it's set up in Homecoming that he wants revenge against Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And now that Peter Parker's identity,
go ahead.
Now that Peter Parker's identity is out,
he knows Peter's vulnerable and therefore can track him and kill him.
Yeah, so.
I agree that would have been more impactful, especially because Scorpion is almost always a member of the Sinister Six. The members rotate around a bit, but Scorpion is almost always in there.
Plus, also, why I picked Harry Amazing Spider-Man's Harry Osborn. One thing, Dane DeHaan is an amazing actor, and I haven't seen him in a lot of stuff lately. I think bringing him back to play, a more accurate version of Hobgoblin, who's a more insane version of Green Goblin, right?
But then also have the Tobyverse Norman have to deal with an alternate universe version of his son, given all the father-son baggage that
the two have with each other's respective. Yeah. That's what I was thinking too.
That would have been really cool. And I know I keep harping on this, but this is a waste of. You had the cameo and then you didn't do anything with it. You can still have, Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock helping the 3 Peters, and then you can have a thing where Toby and Eddie are at odds because of obviously the Topher Grace venom. That could have been interesting on so many levels. And again, it could have set up a dark turn for Peter in his Black Suit era, because if the first Venom he meets is helpful, and Eddie Brock's anti-hero version is definitely, or Tom Hardy's anti-hero version is definitely good and shit, and then you have Toby's Peter explaining about the Topher Grace version, you might even have Peter thinking, well, the one I've met is good, maybe that was just a multiversial one-off, because characters who were good being evil is a trope within multiverse stories, and Peter is enough of a nerd that he should know at least some sci-fi and comic book type tropes.
I was also okay, and you got the other 2 Spider-Man, and then you have the allies of those. Well, one ally from Toby, which is Sandman. He's just a good guy overall. I think having him switch back to being a villain in this makes no sense if it's post Spider-Man 3, right? And then Yeah, you
Yeah, it
got
was dumb.
Venom. So,
Mhm.
and then when Doctor Strange shows up again, meeting all of them. Again, I want Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man to acknowledge him, that he knows the Doctor Strange from his universe, just because from that one-off line, right?
Yeah, it's taken thing, which would also serve to canonize magic in the Raimiverse, which not only would I enjoy, but given that Sam Raimi's second most desirous comic book adaptation is a Doctor Strange movie, thus it would make perfect sense. And how you could even have it be that Toby recognizes Strange, because that's the other thing. Given that reference to Doctor Strange in Spider-Man
2.
In Spider-Man 2, it did bug me that Toby doesn't understand the concept of the Avengers, because at the very least, that's two superheroes within the Raimiverse, and I don't know why they didn't soft canon more, because that's dumb.
Oh, okay. Remember the MTV animated Spider-Man series?
Wasn't that just Spider-Man the animated series, or do you mean the other one? Which one do you mean?
3D animated, the 3D animated one.
That one I don't remember as much, but go on.
Well, it was originally supposed to be kind of in between Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Mm.
The Tobey Maguire one, right?
Mm.
And I mean, it kind of grew to become its own thing as the season progressed, because it only had one season, because it had a lot of trouble behind the scenes, right?
Mm.
But they introduced a lot of heroes in there, and even made mention of like X-Men and stuff. So a part of me kind of wants to headcanon that stuff still happened relatively.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be canon in between the two, so why in the fuck not?
It did make references to other stuff, and like stuff that didn't have in movies and all that.
Especially considering that presumably, as much as I hate the Cameo Fest idea, Doomsday and Secret Wars are going to be a Cameo Fest. So having the allegedly one-off universes have more complexity to them, so that everyone can be on board with the idea of superhero teams, would make that movie make a lot more sense. Granted, I think the writing might be on the wall there, as we covered, I think, last week. But
but I do like that was not an idea I thought of before, like Multiverse of Madness concurring with at least a good portion of No Way Home.
Like, you could still have Strange have downtime so that he could come in and cameo in the events of No Way Home. But you could also have him and America and Wong be buggered off into literal other universes dealing with Wanda shit, and so on and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might use that actually in my anyway.
Because they're interconnecting these movies anyway, so why not interweave them as well? Like, that seems like the natural, logical endpoint. Especially because both No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness are quite big movies, but unwieldy by themselves. But if you knowingly and willfully interweave them, then you get two big introductory movies to the multiverse saga interwoven to get the normies on board with the larger scale, and now we know kind of the way this works.
Mm-hmm. All right, shall we?
Spider-Nana.
Spiders have 3 life cycles. When between cycles, It can leave the spider vulnerable to threats.
We are faced with a danger that we can't control. One we can't even see. Stay out of my way.
Yeah, Scorpion. I don't know who the body hopping villain is. That's a Spider-Man villain I've never come across. Unless they're doing like a chameleon of sorts.
They could be, or, and I know this is one that only I have heard of because it's in a storyline that's not very well regarded, but Judas Traveler. Judas Traveler had a lot of like interdimensional and psychic abilities. That would be an interesting, and especially if he is doing the body swapping thing, that would give an interesting emphasis to the Traveler part of Judas Traveler.
It doesn't really. It's not really hot body. What'd you say? Body hopping. Well, no, it is. It's like his mind is going. It's not like he's switching with the person. He's actually mentally.
No, it's possession. It's essentially a psychic version of possession. But you know what I mean. Like if he's moving from vessel to vessel to vessel to vessel, that would give some emphasis to Judas Traveler's name.
Yeah, although it does seem to be physical because he's not. He has to jump within a certain vicinity of a person.
Could it be a weird version of the Spot? Because the Spot has
no Spot. That's only dimensional. This is like more mental, psychic stuff. So that.
Yeah, other than Judas Traveler, which I think only appeared in parts of the Clone Saga, I can't really think of any of Spidey's villains that would have psychic abilities.
Spider-Man?
I mean, it's not a woman, so they're not repurposing Hypnotia or something. Hypnotia was one of the Mandarin's cadre of villains in the Iron Man show. So I don't know who they could be doing if they're not doing Judas Traveler.
Also, I want to point out, Scorpion is like the only villain that Spider-Man's faced in the MCU that has no connection. Well, okay, besides No Way Home, but I feel like that's not really. That doesn't really count. Scorpion is the only villain that has no connection to Tony Stark that Spider-Man's faced.
So far as we know, they might give him one.
Well, it wouldn't make sense given that his introduction in Homecoming, he got injured and arrested and put in prison because of Spider-Man. So that's a personal vendetta. Yeah.
It's smarter of them to leave the connection severed, but the MCU has not been firing on all or even half their cylinders lately, so God only knows.
Yeah. All right. Shall we?
Spider-Nana.
Spider-Nana.
You're losing it, kid. And for those spiders who make it through, it amounts to a kind of rebirth.
Are they going? Are they going weird shamanic cosmic spider spirit thing? Because I know there's a story where Peter finds out that there's the mystical spider totem element there.
I'm uncertain. I assume that's just talking about like his genetic. That's the man spider stuff, like genetically mutating and stuff.
Because it's not out of character for them to blend to multiple storylines, and I could see a version of this where they were blending the mutation disease man spider thing with the cosmic spider totem thing.
I want to be. I don't think it's a bad idea, like the cosmic spider totem thing. I think it's interesting.
It's just wrong character. There should be another spider character with that as a thing. Because much as I love adding mystical spider, much as I love adding mystical things to just about everything I can contrive them into, it doesn't work for Spider-Man. In the same way as when Batman kind of has a similar thing in DC with what the fuck is that storyline where they revealed that Batman is like a cosmic like a narrative constant of the multiverse or some shit. It's not Outsiders. What is it called? I did several like bad comic beatdowns on England Teens channel with LK that was focused on this, and I can't think of what they're fucking called. But they did something similar with Batman once upon a stupid over in DC, and it was dumb there too, because again, much as I am the king of adding mystical shit to literally anywhere I can contrive it to be stuck, it doesn't work for these characters.
So I guess I think I've talked about it a few times, but I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest. This isn't bad. What I've seen, it looks interesting. I'm somewhat engaged, but again, I don't think none of it feels earned, in my opinion, given that it was built on shaky foundation from the first trilogy.
And another problem here is that this takes place presumably before Doomsday and Secret Wars. And if this takes place before Doomsday and Secret Wars, well, I hate to burst the bubble, folks, but in Doomsday and Secret Wars, the multiverse gets condensed back down, or at least in the most recent version of Secret Wars, which they're probably pulling more from than the original. In the more recent version of Secret Wars, Doctor Doom condenses the various different versions of different characters throughout the multiverse into one singular universe, which is how the All New All Different universe got started. So if they do the same thing with Doomsday and Secret Wars, then this isn't gonna matter, unless you want to say it's been unaffected by Doomsday and Secret Wars, or the other problem. The MCU is probably going to die before we can get another movie in this trilogy. If they're doing another trilogy.
So I've thought of a few ideas for the Brand New Day, how I would do it or write it, I suppose. And again, I'm not going to say like I know better than the professional writers that do this stuff. And I also realize that a lot of times their ideas kind of get bogged down and discarded by higher ups.
You are humble and noble for not saying that. I, however, am your friend and also an asshole, and so I can say that. I have worked with Brainstormer often enough to know, and regularly enough to know, his default creativity is stronger than most people in Hollywood. Granted, he occasionally needs somebody to bounce ideas off and somebody to bounce ideas back at him, and that's where yours truly comes in. But being that as it may, Brainstormer is a better writer than many of the people currently working in Hollywood and making millions of dollars doing so.
Not sure about that. And again, I'm fairly certain there are good and amazing creative people in there that are just kind of fucked over a lot by people who are
Hollywood also does fuck over creative people more so in the age of social justice than any time before. So fair enough.
Kind of circling back. Well, for one thing, I would have focused, as the title suggests, Brand New Day, with Peter trying to move forward with his life after everything. He's attending Empire State University, ESU, and I've seen, and I am not gonna lie, I've looked at other people's pitches on how to do this movie, and an idea I like as kind of the arc for this movie, kind of starting out, is Peter's kind of full sending into Spider-Man. Peter Parker doesn't exist. So while he is acing his classes, he's not interacting with people. Like, he even has a roommate, or, well, no, because he has an apartment, so he's not staying at the dorms.
I mean, you could still have him have a roommate in his apartment because it's a Manhattan apartment in 2020, or actually no, I guess the MCU's timeline is now closer to 2030 than ours is. So yeah, it's
actually, fair point.
it's a
Yeah,
New
no,
York.
fair enough. Yeah, so okay, he has a roommate that he doesn't really talk to. He doesn't. Hey, we're almost done, so I'm doing fine. How you doing? Yeah, has a roommate he doesn't really talk to, doesn't really interact with, because again, he's not really trying to get close to anyone anymore because of everything that happened before. There's like a whole wave of heroes coming about and stuff, street level and all that. I won't. Okay, so I'm gonna be fully honest. How I would do the new trilogy is I would base it off a starting point for the whole trilogy is it's based off Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
The old cheesy 60s classic.
That was like one of my first introductions, actually.
Ditto. I have spent many, many mornings trolling through whatever channel I could find it on to find it. Obviously, the one I remember the fondest is the Chameleons thing there, the 7 little superheroes. They did Doctor Strange dirty, though, not being able to tell the difference between an actual demon and a mechanical one. That annoys me.
All right.
But at least he was included, to be fair.
So I'm kind of thinking like it would just be, which I also think would be a way you can introduce the X-Men subtly by having Bobby Drake be his roommate. That
would be nice, yes. And I forget Firestar's secret identity.
Angelica Jones.
Yeah, there we go.
Wait, hold on. I'm fairly certain that's her name.
Check just so neither of us is a liar. I think you probably are right, but check so that neither of us is a liar.
Yeah, Angelica Jones. Okay.
Okay. Good for you. You remember. I vaguely remembered the name Angelica being connected to her, but I couldn't remember if that was me retconning something. So, hooray.
Apparently she's a romantic interest, or romantically involved with Cannonball of the New Mutants.
Yes.
I didn't know this. Well, she's a mutant. I was aware of that. So yeah, subtly, sort of subtly, introduce mutants that way.
Hint at mutant shenanigans. That would be nice.
Yeah. And I guess in a way, this would be a way to, well, before you do X-Men, I guess this would be before Bobby really joins the X-Men, too, or something like that. I don't know.
Sorry, I got distracted. My cat is mewing, and I was trying to make sure he wasn't sad or something.
Yeah, they kind of become like
Go ahead. Sorry.
The new friends to Spider-Man,
That would be
help
nice.
him reconnect to Peter as well. And they all have a shared interest in the superheroics, but also they're kind of the nerds, the outcasts.
Here's an idea though. What if, and hear me out on this, Firestar and Iceman are trying to hide their superhero identities from Peter because they don't know he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, I figured that would have been. I feel like I probably should have mentioned that then because I thought that was obvious.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I do think that should be resolved at the end of this movie, like in the third act, like maybe.
Oh no, absolutely. I don't know who would be the villain. I mean, it kind of would make sense because they're mutants, and well, mutants aren't really a big thing yet in the MCU currently. Actually, again, because this is also a thing, because we've talked about this so many times, the whole 5 years thing, right?
They never used a damn aspect of it, did they? Did not put it.
Not going with
any
like
kind of
the
use.
snap. Yeah, not going with like the snap. Activated a bunch of, X genes or whatever. Yeah, because that's been the common theory. But I remember someone making mention that it's not really a good idea to do that, because like it gives you instead of mutants always have been here, you have a central point where they first start and stuff, and it gets, it's like
what I would have liked maybe, and I've been pushing this thing since before Disney, before the Fox acquisition even went fully through. Instead of having one to do House of M, have her do a reverse House of M, where she's the one who switches on, and her magic can rewrite time and shit. So that can be a thing.
My idea was that technically, again, mutants have always been there, but they haven't been either. Their population hasn't been big enough, and haven't really made a big enough splash in things to really gain notice by humanity as a whole.
They're still a freakish minority, hence the
X-Men ethos. But during the 5 years, they had time to kind of grow and expand and get bigger in numbers.
Because population's in half.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Use the resources at your disposal, Marvel. And if you're not going to, at least fucking fix your continuity.
No, it was Dragon Troll, but I'm saying that as a basis of like the characters and kind of the setting, more so than the actual than actually adapting anything from that. But yeah, I just think logically that would be the next step. Like, not as much, no, I will say it. Basically abandon Michelle and Ned, because I think they've served their purpose the whole time in the first trilogy, and it's time to kind of. I just don't think they add anything more after No Way Home.
The only thing they're useful for is as a reset.
Yeah.
Like, if they want to fix, which again, from a character point of view, I'm fine with Peter realizing that he should let them go and still not being able to do that, because not only is he still their friend, and that still matters to him, obviously, because he's, a good kid and everything, but also in his superhero aspect, he is Spider-Man. He is a protector of, as Brainstorm was saying earlier, the little guy. And I know protective people. I know.
Sorry, something just occurred to me, because they're both, because Michelle and Ned are attending MIT. Isn't that in Boston?
Massachusetts, yes. Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
So why are they still in New York?
As far as I'm aware, they're not. I
No,
thought
they
that
are.
was...
He's in their place. He says he's in. It's like
I guess
he
they
goes
might
to the,
be. I guess they might be doing it online, but that's stupid.
they had a whole thing in No Way Home that they are going there. And move.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think, and this is me writing Spackle. This is me spackling together the continuity. This might be in between terms when they're on a break. Like they move back in between terms because it's cheaper than staying on campus in between terms.
It's still stupid, but
It's contrived, but that's the most non-bullshit excuse I can give, is that like many college students, they go home in between terms.
all right. I just want to note it for the record that it's stupid.
I know, but this is again, this is my best attempt to spackle the writing back together without being contrived and bullshitty. I didn't make the mistake. I'm the person attempting to fix it.
I know. I'm not blaming you. I'm just. But I feel, again, this is just my own personal thing. If you have a story called Brand New Day, show us a brand new day.
You're also playing once more a very dangerous game, much in the same way as you were obviously taking a lot of inspiration, if not plot, at least ethos-wise, from One More Day with No Way Home. And Brand New Day is usually the title of stories that try to undo One More Day. So you're playing a very dangerous game with the fan base's heartstrings here.
Now that I think about it, okay. Now I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of the trilogy, this Amazing Friends trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
that should be what the third one is called, frankly.
Probably. I do think it obviously with them kind of going their separate ways. And obviously Bobby is recruited by, the X-Men or Charles Xavier or whatever.
Mm.
But
Angelica is off doing new Warriors things. I almost said new Warriors, and no, but yeah. New Warriors.
And Peter, unfortunately, kind of stuck, sort of, because he's bound to New York. That's the place he protects the most.
Yeah, as as per the spider luck, he gets the he rolls natural ones,
but
on
I think
a 5 or lower.
I think the difference from where he starts in this trilogy to how it ends is that he has people now, especially people that know him, all of him.
He's also
not just Spider-Man, not just Peter.
Yeah, but both, and he's grown from the experience. So now he can afford to be alone without it eating away at him.
Hurting. Yeah. God damn it! Now I want fuck. Every time we do this, it's just
somewhere in the multiverse, a world exists where all our ideas have come true, and that version of us has no purpose in life because they don't need to rewrite a bunch of shit. But by the same token, pop culture is much healthier in their universe. I hope you are happy, alternate versions of us. We have suffered so that you will not have to.
Although they wouldn't have been as friends because we never would have met otherwise.
You're right. Without the anti-woke, anti-social justice sort of movement, without the culture wars and the inshitification of every pop culture medium we've ever loved, there's a possibility we might not be friends. That's almost not worth it. Almost. I mean, I'd like to believe there's also a universe where all this pop culture shit is the case, and we somehow manage to become friends anyway. Because in theory, a world where Hollywood is more like pro fan and less, less indoctrinated by social justice is a world where I might have actually been able to make it big on Channel Awesome, and so I might still be a YouTuber. And in this hypothetical world, instead of there not ever being a social justice movement, have the reaction to social justice be what it should have been, which is the reviewer sphere of the Channel Awesome days joins forces with the 2013 to 2017 era skeptics, and they become stronger than ever together. And thus, I'm still a YouTuber, and thus still bebopping around YouTube. So there is a world where we have all the good pop culture shit, and we are also friends still. I don't know what we would do, given there would be so much less need to fix things, because fewer things would be abjectly broken. But there is, shall we call it, the best of all possible worlds, where
we just start making
where fandom won and we are still friends anyway.
Maybe we just get an earlier start on making our comics.
True, but what would the basis of our comics be in that universe? Because
that's right.
We started from the premise of ye gods and little fishes. The post-Phase 3 MCU fucked up. We need it's therapeutic to try and fix it and parody it.
Anyway,
I mean, we surely could come up with something. I just don't know what it would be.
I mean, I can make your argument for the one I've been focusing on lately. Probably just would have come out naturally.
Well, I mean, that's true. Nothing that went wrong with the DC universe. Nothing that went wrong with the DC universe was really social justice related. So we could still have that version. And no, I'm not going to say it because I know you don't like giving it for people to steal. But we could still do the DC one. We just wouldn't have Lion for it.
All right, shall we?
Yep.
Nice flowers.
Oh, they're a housewarming gift.
I'm MJ.
I'm just a neighbor from across the hall.
Friendly neighbor.
Oh, so
yeah, but that has the problem, DT, of being derivative, and no version of us is going to enjoy that.
Yeah, it really depends. Anyway, well, unfortunately, just one, because I'm tired, and two, it's almost midnight.
We'll have to call it there.
Yeah.
The rest of what would have been tonight's is going to wind up in next week's.
Well, it was just
next week brings.
It was just one last trailer. So. So yeah, with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avide, sayonara, peace, cheers,
shalom, and fuck off.